Go ahead and get started. I know everyone has other things going on today. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce myself, and then I'll introduce you. I do want to let everyone know that's already on the call. We are going to definitely take comments and questions at the end, but you're welcome to put your comments and questions as we go through our presentation today in the chat box, and we'll chat about them at the very end. So I do appreciate everyone's time today. I am Darleen Mahoney. I'm the National Digital Sales Director with SeniorLivingGuide.com. We initially mentioned, we have books that are statewide publications within North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida, and Virginia. And then we also have a national reach website with everything senior housing related on it that provides lead generation for our clients, and also solutions for our caregivers and their families that are looking to find those solutions for their seniors, and even the seniors themselves when they're looking for even active and independent. So it's a great solution if you're looking for lead generation. And then we have Michael Holtzclaw today, and I did meet him, like we previously mentioned, in Myrtle Beach at a conference, and he had some great stuff that he was presenting there as well. So I'm super excited to have him on. So tell us a little about yourself, Michael.
Hey, thank you, Darlene, for inviting me. We did have, it was actually really cool, as you remember. That was pretty much our first or second in-person conference since the calming down of COVID. So everybody was trying to figure out how to be and how to act. But thanks for having me on today. I've been a fan of SeniorLivingGuide.com for a long time. If you guys are on this call and you don't understand what it is, I would reach out to Darlene for sure, let her tell you, explain how it works. Surely you've seen one at stores that you pass, retail, wherever they are in your area, but it's a very valuable resource. So again, I would reach out to her, go to their website. So again, as I said earlier, I've been in senior living now right at about 20 years, give or take one or two of those. And been doing a lot. I've had the opportunity to serve in a lot of different roles. What I'm currently doing now, obviously, I'm the VP of sales for Blue Ridge Pharmacy, and it's different, right? It's a different lens for those of you who've never done it, to come from what I call inside senior living, actually being an operator, operating buildings, selling buildings, and now I'm a vendor to those. So I really feel like, which is part of the reason why I made that transition, I now can give back. I used to be what I call a taker, all those years of taking from vendors and enjoying services. And now I get to walk into so many buildings. Just left a building before I jumped on this call that, that people have problems, and it's so nice and refreshing to be that problem solver. And the things that we do at Blue Ridge Pharmacy that are so different, I won't get into that right now on this call because that's another time, but people are understanding what we bring to the table, and that's what's so much fun, when you can walk out of a building knowing you just took someone from a situation that they were not happy with, and you elevated what they're getting. And it's just, when you can wake up in the morning and be like, God, I cannot wait to get to work. Did I ever stop work? Because it's just so much fun. Yeah. And I know a lot of people on this call, a lot of you I know personally, and I know, you can tell when someone really loves what they do. Lots of people say, oh, I'm passionate about my job, but you don't feel it, you don't see it. And I'm an all-in kind of guy if I believe in the product. I know Micah Hunt's on here. You just feel from that dude that he loves what he does. I love people. We're going to talk about relationships here in just a minute. So Darlene, I'll throw it back to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, passion is visible. I mean, if you don't have passion for what you're doing and an excitement for the product that you have, you can tell. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if you're cool, we'll just jump into this. I know you guys have the rest of your afternoon to do other things, but thanks for signing on, spending a little bit of time with us. If you haven't seen me speak before, I'm very unbuttoned when it comes to speaking. I don't have a jacket on. I don't have a tie on. And I just try and speak raw. I just kind of share myself. And that's what just works well for me. I think a good friend of mine's on this call, Nick Merritt, who's VP of Sales with Grove Medical. we're going to be coming out with some super cool stuff. So hopefully you'll, again, if you don't follow us now, jump on LinkedIn, and I'll be weaving in a little bit of LinkedIn as we talk about this as the topic of relationships. So follow Nick and I. We got some other cool stuff coming out, but definitely stay in touch with Darleen as Senior Living Guide. Just, you know, they do what they do, and it's a very valuable tool. I do hear that a lot from either adult children, people that actually use those. And I'm in and out of communities every day. And you know, when you see a publication in someone's hand, it just resonates, right? If I've never seen a Senior Living Guide in someone's hand, then I wouldn't appreciate that brand and what they do. But I see them constantly. So if you're at your desk right now, maybe you're driving or whatever, but I want you to write down what you think your number one relationship is outside of your spouse and outside of your best friend, right? We're talking professional. Just jot down real fast who you would put as your number one connection. I'm going to interchange that as we go through this relationship and connection, right? Because they're kind of the same. So the background of this slide you can see is a window. I really believe relationships are the windows to our soul. As we get to know people, right, we open up different windows of our lives and we allow people to see in. You know, I joke with a lot of people that we have our social media window, and then we have our at home window, and then we have our in the office window, and then we have our own personal window. And, you know, on that social media window, you can kind of be whoever you want to be, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But, you know, as you enter in a relationship with people, you get to pick and choose what windows I want you to look in, and we'll talk about that here in just a minute. The one definition of relationship that I wanted to lay down today as we go through this is it is the way in which two or more people or a group regard and behave toward one another. So if you think about, and a lot of this, what we're talking about today, right, I want you to think about it from a professional relationship, not a friendship, not an emotional one that's more of attractive, you know, dating your wife, spouse, whatever. But this is professional is what we're talking about. And think about who you hold in high regard in your circle, right? And that's kind of how I want you to think about this as we go through. Who can see, if you talk about your professional network, who gets to look in all your windows? Maybe you have a coach. Maybe some of those people, right? I have a coach that I talk to probably twice a month that just gives me raw feedback of how to close more sales, how to do this, don't do this. And, you know, that person gives me valuable insight because I let them see in those windows. And as we go, let's go. So relationships, number one, you guys know who have seen me speak before. I'm not a slide heavy person. I'm not going to bore you with 52 slides. I told Darleen that when she asked me to speak. I said I try to be very engaging, very vocal, and not just read off the slide. But relationships, they're not just about you. That's point number one. You know, Darleen, if you sat there and where you were and when we're at these trade shows, right, I think you can see that there are a lot of people there where it is just about them. You agree?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
You know, guys, the relationship, number one, that's point number one, they're not just about you. If you go into a sales development relationship, and, you know, we were talking about what Darleen and I wanted to share, and we were talking about what is the velocity of a relationship, right? How do I meet a complete stranger? And Darleen and I were just laughing this week about how we can go into a Publix or the mall or anywhere, and I know I can, I know she can, and probably 90% of you on this call can. You just talk to anybody, you talk to strangers, you meet friends. I was at a restaurant last week. The owner comes out, this little hole in the wall restaurant. We ended up taking a photo together. Now he texts me about every other day. You know, when you start that relationship from a sales standpoint, I just finished a book about that called Velocity. And it talked about 72% of salespeople are afraid to give anything of themselves. They just want to close the deal. And if you are what I call transactional sales, then that's going to work for you, right? But if what we're seeing, right, and probably most of you on this call, transactional sales are going away. Whether you do sell a transaction or not, if even in retail, right, relationship selling, specifically in senior living, if you're a vendor in senior living, if you do anything in senior living, whether you're hospice, you have a product, you sell medical supplies, you sell technology, first and foremost is you have to understand how to develop a relationship. And the number one thing I want to start it with was it's not just about you. Second thing that goes along with that is to stop the pitch and start a conversation. I learned this, again, I was transactional sales for so long in my career, and I finally went to a conference that was about relationship selling. And this is what the guy spent 2 hours talking about: stop the pitch and start a conversation. People expect you to pitch. If you're in sales, right? If your title has business development, community relations, sales, VP of something, people are anticipating the pitch. And the reason, I mean, think about yourself, right? When you've gone to somewhere where you're about to make a large purchase, you know, think about a car dealership, for example. That's just the easiest one for most people to wrap their head around. Darleen, what happens when you roll up to the car dealership and get out of your car? What happens?
Don't talk to me. I'm just looking.
Right.
You don't want to be sold. You want to be able to look. Yes.
But they come right out, right? That's the point.
Like a swarm. Yes.
And you guys know they have an up system, so it's whoever the next guy is up. And I'm friends with a lot of car dealers, so I get that, you know, they have to close a deal. But the first thing we say back is, oh, I'm just looking, right? You know, who spends a Saturday on a car lot just to look at cars? So you automatically know by human behavior, I must want to buy a car, or I'm thinking about it because I came to this car lot. But when you pull up on that car lot, right, you're anticipating that there's going to be some pitch. And that's in any business, guys, ladies. I want you to think about that the customer, that adult child, your prospect themselves, they're anticipating a pitch. When you come loaded with just conversation, that's when you truly catch them off guard. That's when you truly become memorable. Because remember, when they leave your community or you leave their office, you just sat here and you met them for the first time and you walk out, you want to be memorable. When that family, again, if you're actively selling senior living, I know there's a mix of people on here today. When you're actively selling whatever you're selling, when that person sits home at night and they sit on their couch to decompress, you want them to remember their interaction with your circle of influence. And if I could encourage you to focus on any part of that, that's what it would be, to stop the pitch and just have a conversation. But so many times in the salespeople that I've coached along the way, we want to say, hello, how are you doing? Welcome to this, or here's this. Now, can we get to the end where you buy? And Darleen, you've seen people like that, probably some on your team that get, you know, you can't even get through lunch and I'm ready for you to sign the check.
Yeah, it's you have to choose between the sprint and the marathon, I think.
Yeah. Everybody wants to be a sprinter, run fast. And you know, and unfortunately, we live in a world that pushes that on us. We live in a very instant gratification world. And unfortunately, that's not how sales are, specifically in senior living. And guys, if you're selling to senior living, it's not that way either. You got to be prepared for the marathon, and we'll talk about that in a minute. The third thing in relationships, and to me, I think this is the most important, and it's where I really look at myself hard, is in a relationship, you must add value. Even in a professional one, I know you're in your marriage, you got to add value. In your friendships, you must add value. But in a sales relationship, it goes back to what I said in the first point. It's not all about you. You have to be a giver. And I see salespeople all the time, even people that call us at Blue Ridge, who are our vendors, right? They just want to sell me whatever they're selling. I see people at trade shows. You know, when you walk up to a booth, it's this heavy selling, and it actually disgusts me, to be honest. You know, how many of you on LinkedIn, right? I laugh about it a lot. I get messages. in groups where we talk about it. The moment you connect with somebody, right, in 10 seconds, Darleen, I know you probably get them too, so let's talk about it for a second. Because
Sure.
if you guys are doing that on this call, I'm going to tell you today to stop, right? Stop. If you're on LinkedIn or even on email, whatever connection you just made with that person, you cannot send that dreaded 8.5 by 11 paragraph, a page full of who you are and what you do. Darleen, how many times do you get that yourself on any platform, whether it's LinkedIn, email? You just met me and I unload on you.
Right, exactly. I mean, there's not any kind of personal connection in there. I mean, you really don't get to know who this person is. It's just, this is what I can give you. This is what I can sell you. And if, we get, we're sellers on our end, but we get sold to as well. I mean, it works on each end. It really doesn't matter what you're doing. That's what you're getting in your email. We get tons of email as well. And really, it doesn't explain, there's no personal connection. I don't even know who these people are, but there's nothing personal about it. There's no value in building any kind of relationship with any of these people that are basically what comes across to me as a type of spam, even though it may be very personal, to be frank with you. I don't know that for sure.
For sure. I give you a real example, and I would never tell the person's name because I don't behave that way. But I got a LinkedIn request last night, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. The message said, please add me to your professional network. So I don't always add everybody. I know there's people out there that if you get a request, you just add them. I actually try and vet that person. Do they belong in my network? Can I offer them value? I also look at that, right? Can I be of any help to this person? I just don't. So anyway, I added them to my network, and I kid you not, in 30 seconds, I had 4 messages from the individual. And I'm talking paragraphs with videos and links and stuff embedded. And you know what I did? I totally checked out. And I know what product they were selling. It's a product that I haven't made it known, but I've been searching for a product like this, and I already won't buy from that person because they spent no time. And Darleen, right? It's just a copy and paste situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
You can tell if you guys have been doing this long enough that you can tell when it's a copy and paste because you're sending out 100 of them. And if you're doing that, again, I can tell you from experience, I used to do that when I first started in senior living. I was just copy and pasting emails and sending them to prospects and sending and couldn't figure out why does nobody ever answer my dang email?
Mm-hmm.
Well, because if you're a remote smart consumer, you can tell, okay, that guy spent 0 time writing this to me.
Yeah.
So what I want to encourage you to do in any connections, any sales connection that you are in, before you try to sell that person, before you do anything else, you should determine how can I offer value in this sales relationship. That's what makes them buy from you. It is not. Do not, and I want guys, if you're sitting there laughing and thinking that won't work, I can promise you from experience, it works for me every single time that I go into a community, that I go to a lunch, I go to a dinner, the conference like we were at, Darleen. When you can figure out, when you bring to the table to a lunch or a dinner, or you're sitting at the desk with an executive director, and when you start telling them, this is how I can help you, and I don't mean your product, this is how I can personally bring value to what you do, you get people's attention. Mm-hmm. Again, I know Micah Hunt, you do the same thing. It's the value that you bring to the table. So, and the next point, right? Don't fake it until you make it. Be real. That used to be the kind of thing that we all were taught to do, right? If you don't understand it, fake it till you make it.
Exactly.
No, that used to work for me, and I'm going to tell you, I've done it, right? I didn't do it in the Navy because people die, obviously, but in senior living, I didn't know what I was doing, and I just acted like it, and I wouldn't know what the words meant, and people would be dropping clinical words around me, and I just would be like, yep, and then, it didn't work. But I mean, Darleen, you can attest to, the times that you've heard it growing up. Just fake it till you make it.
Yeah. No, I think you really do need to build those relationships, and part of it, and I know we've talked about this in sales a gazillion times over, but I don't think you can ever hear it enough. You need to stop talking and start listening.
No,
and
exactly.
really hear people, and you can build a relationship with someone once you literally listen to them, listen to their needs, and have a conversation about what those needs are, and just build a relationship based on that. And I think that we miss that so often because we're so busy thinking about what we want to sell them or what we want to say next. And we need to really stop and really check ourselves. And I think that we so often don't do that.
Agreed. And for those of you on this call, you might be thinking, gosh, these are elementary concepts. And Darleen and I knew they were when we put this together. And we did that intentionally because how many Zoom calls have you been on since COVID, right? Where people can't even practice the things that we're talking about here today. This isn't a deep dive in how to master relationships. This is blocking and tackling. And again, I'm at sales conferences via Zoom. In person, I'm in probably 5 to 10 buildings a week, even now. And I see people who can't even block and tackle at normal relationship tactics. I see it on LinkedIn. I am bombarded on LinkedIn by people who can't master the basics of a professional relationship. So again, we don't want you to think, gosh, this is pretty elementary. We knew that, and it was intentional because, again, you can't master what I call the big boy stuff until you lay the foundation. And again, the don't fake it till you make it. And we'll talk about that on the next slide here in just a few minutes, 2 slides more. People want to know that you're vulnerable. Don't people think if I show this client that I've taken to lunch and we're having expensive drinks, you have to act like you want. We think in our mind, if I don't act all buttoned up and I rule the world, they're not going to buy from me. That's a lie. People will buy from you faster and quicker, and they will let you in. Because remember, the whole goal in a relationship that I'm building with you is I want you to open your window to me. And the people will throw back those shutters like you see on this slide when they see that you are vulnerable as well. But a lot of us want to hide that. We want to fake it. We want to be something that we're not. And we just have this, it's almost like going on stage that we want to act like I'm this person that I'm not. And that's why I hear people joke about it all the time. God, when I go to these conferences, I'm exhausted by the end of the night because I heard one guy say it just when we were there, Darleen. I spend all this time being somebody that I'm not at that booth.
Yeah.
And that's why when people ask me to speak, Nick and I laugh about it. When you ask me to speak, you're just getting real and raw. And again, unbuttoned. I'm not going to sit on here and use giant words that most people don't understand. Again, I don't fake it until I make it. If I don't understand it, I'll tell you, hey, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah. We have a lot of folks that are in the senior housing industry that are on this call and that do home health care and things like that. And they work with, the families. And I did want to mention, you were talking about vulnerability. And, my personal experience is where I did put my dad into an assisted living. He had dementia a while back. And in all honesty, where I decided to put him was not it wasn't technically, the nicest with all the great amenities and all the, this, that, and the other. But the people that worked at that community and the person in charge of marketing that was vulnerable and really connected with me and made me feel like my dad was going to be taken care of. And the people that I met that worked there made me feel that way. But his compassion to me and his vulnerability, in all honesty, were really the sellers. I mean, that's what sold the community, because honestly, it was an older community. It's been around for a while. It wasn't particularly, it didn't have a lot of bells and whistles, but it's because I knew my dad was going to be taken care of there. And I felt like it was a good community that was going to have that loving atmosphere, which was more important to me than the bells and whistles. And I think that people miss that so much. They sometimes are, and it's hard sometimes when you're doing things repetitively per se.
Right.
You just have to kind of step back a few minutes and just kind of get that passion for what you love sometimes, and the people that are coming in and the people that you're dealing with, and just kind of like readjust and say, I have a passion for these people and what they're dealing with, and kind of get that back. And I think it's good for people to maybe get a few minutes to kind of really think about that and readjust in order to kind of be a better salesperson if you're looking at it from that end, right?
No, that's a great example. Thanks for sharing. Guys, I can promise you, senior living, home health, hospice, and then any kind of sales, this is tough. It's tough. Take away COVID, right? Take away 2020. What we do is tough anyway. But sometimes, again, I see people in my circle, we make it harder than it should be. And Darleen just mentioned, I see this all the time. The brand new building that has all the bells and whistles, they're struggling to find occupancy. And I was literally just in a building last week that probably most of you on this call would not move your pants into if you judged it from the outside. It was old. They hadn't done a lot of updating on it. But when you walked in, you guys know what I'm talking about, right? When you walk in a building and it is alive, you can feel it. And this building has a 6-month waiting list, but it's not the bells and whistles in town, but it's what you said. They are vulnerable and they love on people. Mm-hmm. So the next thing, I'm gonna encourage you to prioritize your relationships, but in the opposite that you think I'm gonna say. Do not prioritize them in the order of what you think you can get out of them. Right? When we sit and we prioritize our calls and who I want to hang out with today, who should I take to lunch? Our first thought is who's going to close the fastest, right? Oh, let me prioritize these call outs. So let me prioritize my meetings today. And the first person we want to put in slot number 1 is who can I sell to first?
The low-hanging fruit. The low-hanging fruit?
Yeah, let's focus on that low-hanging fruit. But again, we do that because of lots of different reasons. But listen, I'm telling you guys, challenge yourself to think outside the box, to be different. If you prioritize your relationships and who can I give to the most, that's who's going to close for you first. That low-hanging fruit, you're going to get them anyway. But if you focus on the people, if the number 1 slot in your priority box is who can I give to the most, that's the first person that's going to close. And it might be your hardest deal that you think it's going to be, but we go about it backwards. We go about it up, who can I get the easiest? Who can I close today? Who can I get to sign? Again, that's important because we all have quotas that we have to meet. But sometimes you don't close that largest deal because you keep putting them at the bottom. Oh, they're probably 30 days out. I promise, again, I know that you guys, this is, maybe you've never tried it. And again, I was sitting on the other side of a call just like this years ago, and I heard somebody tell me, put the person that will find you the most valuable in the number 1 slot. And when I say valuable, not the person that's going to love your product, put your product away. What you can give as a person. And that's how I'm going to challenge you to prioritize them. Most of us, it's going to flip your boxes upside down. Maybe your SWOT analysis or whatever you do. Again, if you wear this lens, your equity in a relationship is 10x. Mm-hmm. Again, we just talked about this a minute ago. Be prepared to play the long game. Sorry, Darleen, I interrupted. You were going to make a comment.
No, you're good. No, I was just acknowledging what you said. I do want to bring up, and I know we're kind of going back in the time machine a little bit, but we had someone ask, Teresa Robertson asked, what you meant by vulnerable. So do you want to kind of clarify that?
No, yeah, great question. So what I mean by vulnerable is obviously these are professional relationships, not personal. So that's vulnerability and with a different lens, right? But even in a professional relationship, you can let the person know, number 1, I'm not a know-it-all, right? I'm not the know-it-all here. I'm not super prideful. I'm not conceited. I have problems of my own.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And again, you have to be a little bit strategic about that vulnerability, because you don't want to sit at the business lunch and talk about, problems that you're having in your marriage. But really what I want you to think about it is show that person that you're real.
Mm-hmm.
And Darleen and I talked about this literally on another call that we had. And I think people do it all the time, right? And if you think about social media, specifically LinkedIn, and I can only speak to LinkedIn, guys, because that's the only thing I have. I don't have Facebook and Instagram and Parler and all these other things. But I think we lose sight of, on LinkedIn, the person that you're talking to or that comment that you're about to leave. That's a real person on the other side. And I see people on LinkedIn say things that I would never say in person, and we want to hide behind the keyboard. And I think that, and again, I call it like it is, right? And if you're one of those people, I don't mean to hurt your feelings, but that's a coward move.
And you're cracking me up, because I'm thinking LinkedIn is like the safest place right now on social media. So you're actually doing pretty well.
No, I really think, when you dig in the comment, I do read comments. I read other people's comments that they've left. If you leave a comment on my stuff, I promise you, I read every single comment that gets left for me. But I just think we lose sight, even in a professional relationship engagement, that's a real person on the other side who has feelings, who's vulnerable just like you. And they're on LinkedIn trying to hustle just like we are. And I think sometimes if we just sat down for a minute, took our breath, caught our breath, and just, I try to treat people the way that I would want to be treated back, even if they're rude to me. And again, I just think that's what vulnerable means to me. I hope that answers her question. But
yeah, I think we have to take a step back sometimes. And I mean, right now, everybody's highly, highly stressed, in reality is we have to look at people and think that person may be having a really bad day. We have no idea, because we're not walking in everyone else's shoes. And we may be having a bad day, taking it out on someone else, or we may be having a good day and be irritated that someone else is having a bad day. But when we're dealing with potential residents, when we're dealing with their families, really, I think, to know that they're having a bad day. No one typically, these are hard conversations for them, no matter what, if you're talking about assisted living, skilled, home health, really anything you're talking about, even seniors.
It's a decision that they don't want to even make.
Yeah, these are they'd rather be at the beach, they'd rather be at Disney World, they'd rather be doing a million different other things. So really, I think taking a step back, having that compassion and empathy, and being really transparent with them and understanding that this is a bad day for them. Pretty much everyone you're dealing with, for the most part, is having a bad day on some level, because they are having this conversation, and really just having that empathy and maybe making their day brighter by letting them know it's not the end of the world. I always keep in mind, especially since COVID, I keep this in the back of my mind, and I'm thinking at some point this is going to come to fruition, and this too shall pass.
Right. No, you hit on the word. So if you think of vulnerable, another word that I can substitute for there is emotion. That's probably a better word. Maybe they'll help answer her question. People want to see, when you're meeting with them face to face, where it doesn't matter where, that you have emotion and that you're a real person. You're not just this stoic salesperson that doesn't really want to know my name. You don't care about me. You don't care about anything I have to say. You just want to sell me and leave. And you hit the key word. I didn't put it in this presentation. I just did a Zoom 2 weeks ago that was 90 minutes on just being empathetic. How does empathy play in sales? And we didn't put it on this panel today, but I mean, Darleen, and the rest of you folks on this, if you don't have any empathy, your closing rates are probably super low. You have to quickly, when you walk into a room and you're meeting either with a board, C-suite, a president, or even a CNA, I don't care the level of their job title, you have to quickly be able to assess the situation. And what makes a fantastic dynamite salesperson is to show emotion and to be able to meet that person where they are. And that's the true definition to me of empathy, is when I can sit and have a conversation with where you are. I don't want to, we always want to bring people to where we are, right? And they don't want to come. They're not ready to take that journey. They didn't open their window. And again, the act of mastering empathy is to walk into a room and in 30 seconds, figure out where that person is, and that's the level of conversation I want to have. And you do it lots of different ways: body language, my voice tone, how loud I'm talking, the words I'm using. But you nailed it there. I mean, it is salespeople who can't be empathetic, their closing rates are low every time.
And the churn rate is up. If they get the sale, that churn goes up. Absolutely.
Next point is to just expand your opportunities. I know a lot of you, again, if we just talk about LinkedIn or we talk about any other platform that you use to communicate with people, you got to get out of your comfort zone a little bit, right? If you've never made a video on LinkedIn, go make one today. Expand your opportunities, make your bubble bigger. That's just a term I love to use, is how big is your bubble? You know, when's the last time you chewed gum and you blew a bubble, right? And it blows on your face. Make your bubble bigger. If you want more sales, and I hear every week people tell me, oh, Michael, I'm such a terrible networker. Well, it's not that they're a terrible networker. They just don't do it. Right? So I want to encourage you on here, whether it's LinkedIn or it's text messages, phone calls, you have to expand your opportunities to build relationships. What I know is you can't wait for relationships to come to you.
Right. And even now in World Zoom, which is the new networking of 2020, getting on those Zoom calls and showing your personality, not just getting on them and, you know, doing your elevator speech and then really not having any input afterwards, but really building relationships on those Zoom calls, because it is the new networking at this point. And you can, I mean, we've done some Zoom calls where we're starting to do more Zoom meetings, and I've really built some, you know, relationships and gotten to know people, because I'm here in Melbourne and work with different parts of our, you know, our markets. And I've actually loved it, because I didn't do that pre-COVID with clients and prospects and, you know, different folks in those markets. And I'm getting to do that now. And I'm finally starting to like meet some of these people with faces and have real conversations and hear what's going on in their world. And I think it's made such a difference for me. Hopefully it's made a difference for them, because we really do, you know, we started this whole thing with COVID, you know, quote unquote, or not quote unquote, hashtag is hashtag, my bad. We're all in this together. And in reality, you know, we here at SeniorLivingGuide.com have felt that way for our clients, because we know the struggle has been significant in this particular industry. So I think it's made such a difference. And we really do hope that we've been able to connect with them for that, which we really hadn't been able to do prior to COVID, because all of our team was networking in person. But that really did stop in March.
No, great point. And I know everybody's like Zoom exhaustion. I keep hearing that word, and Zoomophobia. Everybody's scared to get on. I'm gonna encourage you too. Sometimes get on a Zoom call that has nothing to do with your industry, right? It's fun. I got asked to speak on this one a couple of weeks ago called Thirsty Thursday, and it's the car industry. None of us are in car sales, but the guy asked me, "Hey man, hop on. I know it's late at night, but I had a blast." And it's and I get on there every Thursday now that I can. So if you guys want to check it out, just go to LinkedIn and look up Justin Searle, JUSTINSEARLE. He'll send you the link. But it's people from all across the country at 9:00 p.m. on a Thursday. I've seen it up to over 600 people. And you just sit and talk to each other. There's really not a big topic. There's kind of like a moderator who Justin kind of keeps things moving, him and his wife. But it's cool. And I have met and developed from that some amazing relationships, just because, again, I expanded my bubble to get on this car dealer Zoom. And it's been amazing. They've referred some business to me. Some of them sent me some of their books. I mean, it's just fun.
Yeah.
And that's the way you build relationships. There's nothing really I can get from them because they sell cars, right? But I try to add value, and in turn, they've sent me some business. So we've already talked about the last thing I want to talk about is celebrate the differences. Everybody is different. Any relationship that you go, whether it's romantic or professional, there's going to be different faults. Everybody's from a different story, and you have to learn how to celebrate that person's story. And that's what really, again, drives sales home for me. First of all, you got to be willing to listen to their story. A lot of us don't even want to do that. And then celebrate that person's differences. You have to celebrate their individuality. Truly, whether you agree with it or not, that's just the world we live in. You have to celebrate their differences.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'll close and throw it back to Darleen with this quote today. Don't find fault, find a remedy. Anybody can complain. And again, on relationships, that's what I think we got to do. Everybody wants to find fault and lay blame. Just say, hey, we effed it up. Let's move on. Right? Don't complain about it.
Exactly. I used to tell my kids, and I still stand by this, and not even just my kids. If you have a problem, fine, I want to hear your problem, but tell me what you think your solution is going to be. I always want to hear the solution to the problem. If you have a problem, what do you think it is? It may not be the right solution, but at least come to me with what you think that is, and we'll go from there. Don't just complain about something. So no, I agree with that 100%. And I do want to mention, I really like the fact that you brought up LinkedIn, because I think that not everyone is really utilizing LinkedIn and I have preached this until I'm like purple, that LinkedIn can be such a huge benefit if used properly. It can, I think 5-10 minutes in the morning on LinkedIn is great. And I think you can really get a lot of headway in that. It doesn't have to be a time sucker. But I do think it is such a positive thing to try to connect with people that are, and you're not driving around and different things like that. So I think utilizing LinkedIn, people need to really start looking at that. If you're not doing it, I kind of encourage it.
Yeah, I encourage that. If you need help, private message me on there. I'll give you my phone number. We can jump on a call. But again, I want to leave you guys with this. I challenge you to flip that priority list, which is what we talked about probably 20 minutes ago. Really flip, stop being stingy, and put the person in the first spot of who you can be the most valuable to. And you'll see your sales totally change.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to go through here. If you guys haven't typed in some questions, please do so. I saw a couple questions come in. And we'll wrap this up with some questions. Will that work for you, Michael?
I'm great. Sure, let's do it.
Okay. So one is up here. I'm trying to zoom past without zooming. You mentioned how this is coming from Teresa as well. You mentioned how you didn't like how last night the LinkedIn person sent you their bio as soon as you accepted their connection request. How do you think is acceptable for the platforms like Zoom calls? We have been taught to put various types of info in the chat box.
No, I think that stuff's appropriate. Even if that person would have sent me one message saying, "Hey, hope you're having a great day," there's just no introduction. I mean, we skipped the "will you go out with me" at all. And we were already at a dinner about to open the wine bottle. I didn't
exactly. And in all honesty, I've gotten that too. And I've had people say, "Can I email you something?" Or "This is what I do. Do you mind if I email you some information?" And then I get it in my actual email box versus stuff on LinkedIn, which I actually prefer. And as far as the chat box, this is my thing on Zoom. I always save our chats and then send it out after call so that everybody has that information that was on the call. So that's why I think it's super appropriate on the Zoom call.
I feel you. Agreed.
But yeah, so that would be my answer on that. And I guess it depends on the Zoom call. If it's a Zoom call that they're not asking you to do that, or they're not going to save the chat, or that might be different. But I think for our industry, and then all the Zoom calls I've been on, that has been super appropriate, and I think it's a great idea. view. Okay, no, that was, I don't know what
I
that
think
is.
somebody asked how you could get a hold of me. Just go on LinkedIn and search me, and you're welcome to shoot me a private message, and then we can, exchange numbers if that's what you need. And again, I live by the motto of just people helping people. Some people don't want help, but people helping people. I think if our country, senior living specifically, but if we all live by that motto, sales wouldn't even be an issue.
Yeah, and just to let everyone know that's on the call, what I'm going to do is I am recording this because I've actually had people pre-email me prior to that weren't going to be able to be on this webinar. What we do is we take it, create a YouTube out of it, and I will send out the link to everyone. And I'll also include all of Michael's contact information so that you can get in touch with him if you would like. But he's also on LinkedIn. So definitely get in touch with him or follow him on LinkedIn, connect with him. You're also welcome to connect with me on LinkedIn, Darleen Mahoney at SeniorLivingGuide.com. That would be fabulous. So I'll send you all that information so you guys will have those links, etc. Does anyone have any more information or any more questions that they would like to ask? Any comments?
I'll say this too in closing. If you guys have not checked out Micah Hunt's virtual presentation Fridays, those things are super fun. I think Rachel Nader's on there tomorrow. That would be a great first time for you to jump on. Again, Micah puts together some cool stuff. I've had the chance to speak on there before, and I know Mike and I are working on some cool stuff too that I really can't share on this platform. But again, it's back to people helping people. You might not even know who Rachel Nader is, but she's awesome. I see one last question. Do you have any tips about getting through to the decision maker at a doctor's office? Here's what worked for me back when I was doing that, right? Again, we all want to skip by the gatekeeper. We all want to just blow past the receptionist and get straight to the decision maker at the doctor's office, which may be the head RN. Sometimes it's that business office director. That's who you're trying to get to. I would always love on the front person I used to talk to. As soon as I walked in the door, the person behind that sliding glass, the first couple of times I would go, I wouldn't even ask to speak to the decision maker. I loved on that person at the front door. That's who I would give the candy to. That's who I would give the donuts to. We want to zoom
cupcakes.
Yeah. And again, it sounds so elementary, right? But I'm telling you, people don't do it. And you are not getting back to that person without that person's permission. This happened to me personally at my current role. I was trying to get into a skilled nursing, and everybody was like, you can't get in there. They're not going to talk to you. So I walk in, again, I applied what I knew to work from the past. I loved on that receptionist. She was crankety when I first met her, but I talked to her enough to know that I found out she loved sweet tarts. I took my butt to Costco. I bought the biggest box of sweet tarts I could find. Rolled back up in there the next time. Again, still hadn't asked to see the decision maker yet. Rolled in there with that box of sweet tarts. I mean, it was a box of sweet tarts. She's probably still eating them, and this was like February.
Yeah.
Took those sweet tarts, again, didn't ask, hey, can I see your boss? I just hung out with her. Guess who got an email that said, anytime you want to come, I will let you right through. Cost me $12 on sweet tarts and a little bit of my time, but I didn't have to play that game. How am I going to get past that witch at the front?
Yeah, it absolutely is making good friends with that gatekeeper, and going back to listening instead of talking. That comes in. I mean, that is prime for a gatekeeper. It's listening, because a lot of times gatekeepers are having bad days.
I think Teresa said we can't really do that nowadays. So what's the new strategy? So again, part COVID, right, Teresa? Because we're sitting here on Zooms, you got to do it all on the phone. I think you can still do that over the phone of just talking to that gatekeeper. Again, when you first make that call, don't ask to talk to the boss. you know, again, I know it sounds elementary, but I'm telling you, everybody wants the same thing that you and I want when someone calls us. Just slow down a minute. Hold on. It's the same thing I wanted from that guy last night. I was looking for a product that he sells. Hold on a minute. Don't open the wine yet. I didn't say yes. And I think it's the same thing everybody else wants. Slow down. Get to know that person on the other end of the phone.
Yeah. And I think you could even, if you can get just a little nuggets from that particular person, if you can even send them something like cookies or something of that nature, or just drop them off at the, you know, like drop them off without going in with anything like that. I think you can even get away with that. That might be a good idea. That just says, thanks for chatting with me. Have a great day.
I just dropped stuff off at the door this morning. You just drop it and go. I leave a note. Sometimes I don't even tell them. I just literally leave it at the entrance to the employees, and I just drop it and go. Because again, it's just a little surprise.
Yeah, you never know. You never know. So,
right.
All right. Well, I think that's going to be it. I think we're going to sign off. And clearly, anyone that would like to get in touch with us after, all of the contact information is going to be in an email.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Darleen.
Thank you so much, Michael. Thank you so much for joining, everyone.
Awesome.
All right. Bye-bye. Have a great day.